The thing I was going to say about YouTube is we can just live stream in there too as podcasters and put it on each of ours. There's a whole thing. There's millions and millions of people on YouTube.
Totally.
And it's a whole different audience and everything about podcasting. And evidently it's a completely different audience than where you normally get an audience. And they're really pushing podcasts right now.
Welcome, everyone, to the Relaunch podcast. And you are in for yet another absolutely incredible show today. Why is that? Because I have somebody that I have recently met that I need you to know the stories, the passion behind this gal. It's like when you have two universes meeting. You've got the relaunch and you've got this woman, and you realize that through the struggles, through the learning, through the magic of it all, things happen. And isn't it incredible when synchronicity, when things happen and you know that there is going to be a long-term friendship here, awesome partnership here, and it's kind of come together in that absolutely fortuitous way. Well, I've got Lauren Abrams with me. She is the founding member, managing partner of the law offices of Lauren Abrams. And let me tell you, she's been doing this for 22 years. And you all know I've been doing what I've been doing for more than 22 years. But she's on tons of associations. She's a thought leader in everything, but really what she's the most passionate about, I always like to get to the bottom of the relaunch journey, is that she is a host of 52 Weeks podcast, where leaders, healers, change agents discuss the challenges that they've overcome, giving you the tools to take the leap of faith in yourself through humor. Wait till you hear this, gal. Compassion and grace. The podcast reminds you that anything is possible and it's never too late to live your purpose. Come on, everyone, do what lights you up and create extraordinary things. You also get to learn in her podcast about, hey, how about this? The meaning of life. And guess what? You will never regret it. Lauren, so good that this finally worked out. And we are sitting here and we are going to deliver the most incredible show, I have no doubt.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here, Hilary. And it's 52 Weeks of Hope. So,
52 weeks of hope.
Yeah.
Of hope.
And I love the synchronicity of our podcast. It's really amazing. And you're going to be a guest on 52 Weeks of Hope so soon. So I love the way this all works. Yeah.
It really, I love that too, because it's so great when I get to highlight you to my audience. I get to share your story. I love, and I'd like to even throw this out into the world, the universe. I'd like to put out as my intention that we're going to find out something about you that you haven't shared. That's something like, people may not know about you. So let's go deep into that, into the why. You went from this high-powered, which you still are, this high-powered attorney, and something happened. A relaunch happened. Something stepped into your life. And it changed everything. Can we introduce you into the world of relaunch?
Oh, absolutely. And I love the question. Thank you for that. Because things are never how they appear on the outside. Don't assume anything about anyone. Here I am, this Beverly Hills attorney, and you may think, there was somebody who worked with me at my practice once, and he thought, oh, I've been handed everything. And that's not the case at all. I've worked hard for where I am today, and I'm always so grateful and amazed and everything else. And that's a different story. You can listen to episode 1 for that. But I'd much rather talk about what happened, because here I am, this grateful person and a mom. I'm a single mom raising my kids, working hard. And I went through my dark night of the soul. Everyone goes through it. None of us get through this life unscathed. And the only way through is through. And when I got through this, I was like, what the hell was that? And it was just really difficult. I went through financial challenges. I had to pay my employees. I had to take care of everything. It got so bad. I didn't know how I was going to feed my kids for a while. And that really freaks people out. And I actually talk about this on LinkedIn. And they don't teach you in law school about finances. My practice is thriving, but I wasn't getting paid. And I actually had a depot service sue me. So there's something that I don't talk about. And I was like, I was making minimum payments, but they sued me. And, they still come back and try to get me as a client today. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Okay, wait. Can I tell you how many, we are really cut from the same cloth here, that there is now even more reason. I mean, you are a single mom, you have a partner now, I know, and things have happened. You were trying to really figure it out. You ended up being sued. I had a board member try to bring down one of my companies all the way down, and he ended up doing a Ponzi scheme and ended up in federal prison, and then wrote me the letter from prison saying, I'm really, I'd love to work with you again. You're a beautiful person on the outside.
Oh my God. From prison.
So here I'm hearing, this devil, and all of a sudden they want to, work with you. It's like, what?
Are you kidding? Yeah. I'm just like, anyway, and I got through it. It's not like, money rained down on me, but I got through it. Right. But when I got through that, I was like, what the hell was that? And
how long did this time period last for you?
It felt like forever. Every day felt like forever. I have no family out here. I had no one I really was alone. My ex-husband had given me full custody of both kids, and I felt very alone. And nobody, believe me, when you have money problems, you're not attracting anyone. And it's one of those things people don't even want to hear about. So I don't talk about it. I just usually say the dark night of the soul, and I move forward. So you want to hear something I don't usually talk about? There you go.
You know what? Hey, this is what it's all about. And I do want to throw something out there. Did you have this happen to you where one thing happened? So I was going through a divorce, and all of a sudden then I get melanoma. Then I have, and I have my 3 kids living in, the house too. And it was like, then. Did you have that? Was that part of your story too?
There was always it's life. Life happens.
Yeah.
But I will say from this, and when I got through it, I was like, what was that? I was like, then I went through why are we here? What are what's the meaning of life? And all of this. And I decided I was going to ask a person a week just that question, why are we here? And I thought I'd start with a much older demographic, because they say nobody on their deathbed ever wished they worked harder or made more money. So I was going to be like, tell me. I want to know. And I'm not a DIYer, but this is as close as DIYing as I get, if that's a word. And
Lauren, this is so great. So what you did, so you said, again, life happens. Yes, I agree. Relaunches happen, and we don't know when they're going to happen. Another one could happen today, tomorrow, next week. It will happen though. And we both are in agreement that life will continue to happen to teach you those lessons. You will end up having some form of a dark night of the soul where, you're feeling like, oh my God, how do I make it through this? But you will. And there's always a silver lining. And I try to make sure.
And I made sure somebody knew what was going on with me. I did not do this in total isolation. My best friend knew what was going on. She actually sat in the office with me one day. And I actually went to a soul cycle class where I had all these extra classes in the thing. And I went to my favorite teacher. This shows it was a long time ago, but not. And I was in the back row in the dark, just crying and cycling. And my favorite teacher, Angela, she was going, I don't know who I'm talking to right now, but somebody needs to hear this. And she did her Angela magic, and I'm crying. And I knew something shifted in me, because sitting and hoping for something to get better, God doesn't drive parked cars. Like you have to take action. And this was action for me, was going and just doing that. And I knew I'd get through it. I didn't know how, but I knew I'd get through. And it, like I said, money didn't rain on me. And my best friend sat at my office with me, and she just worked from there with her laptop while I worked. And anyway, and I did get through it. And so I started interviewing a person a week, asking like, what have you gleaned from living life? What would you have to say? What are we?
You said older person, which I love. The whole idea. Yeah. What are we talking about? What age group are you going for? I was
going for originally, I mean, I didn't ask them how old. Yeah. Well, actually, I did some, but over 80. So just older. And I started interviewing the person a week, and I'd ask them, and people would divulge really personal information to me. And it was so good and so rich. I'd go home and I'd write it up in my own verbiage, which is a little bit funny, not making fun of them funny or anything. And after about 2.5 months, I noticed some common themes, and I was like, this is so good. It's so rich. I'm going to write one of those books where you put all the stories in and then you open it up and you're like, that's just what I needed to hear. Or you close it and you open it again. And you're like, that's what I need. And call it 52 Weeks of Hope. And then
I love that. So again, the question you were asking these older people is, why are we here?
Well, and what have you learned? And what would you have to say? And it was so good. And,
so what were the common themes here? What were the?
I'm going to tell you.
This is big, girl. I love this. This is like hitting me right in the heart. Like
That's why I'm like But then the pandemic hit, and I started podcasting, and I didn't even like listen to podcasts. Maybe an occasional Oprah or Brene Brown. Like I didn't really, and I just started, and then I wasn't confined to LA, and I just started, and I have podcasted ever since. But I will say, after my first 52 weeks. Episodes, because I ask everyone for a message of hope, and I compiled all the messages of hope into 8 overarching themes, and I call it the meaning of life. So now I'm going to answer your question that I now know.
I feel like we need a drum roll right now. I mean, you were about to give us the 8 steps to the meaning of life.
Yeah, well, and
netting it out.
Yeah. So number 1, community. We are not meant to live in isolation. We are meant to be together. Texting isn't the same. Like by the end of this, Hilary and I feel like we're BFFs because we see each other on the screen here. We're connecting. It's not the same. We need to hug. We need to be together. You don't have to hug everyone. Community doesn't mean you need hundreds of people but we need to physically be together. And I cannot tell you how many times they all were like, you young people need to put down your phones, which I love being called a young person. But we need to put down our phones and actually connect.
I'm going to say one thing off of that as well, is that, for so long, our company, Relaunch, we do so many things virtually, so many Zooms, but we do an in-person event, a retreat, the Relaunch retreat every year.
I saw that. It looks amazing. Everyone should go.
I got to tell you, getting people in the energy off the charts and the coming together of, I just got chills. It is so different. We've forgotten what it means. And so I've got girls trips now planned. I've got reunions. I'm like, yes, let's do it. So, so
that's community. What it's all about, because I lead meditations. I mean, everything's about the pause. If there's any burnt out type A overachieving moms on here, I'm going to tell you, everything's about the pause. We've forgotten the pause. Everything's about the pause. Even if it's 10 seconds, just breathing in and out.
Did you get a chance to flip through the Relaunch book? I call it the pause principle. Like,
no,
brilliant.
I don't have your book yet.
Well, I got it. Wait. I actually have. There's a whole section on the pause principle. Okay, but let's go back to the eight meaning of life. Number 1,
number
community.
2. Yes. Number 2, service. Doing for others. No matter what. I've mentored a girl in downtown LA. My husband was always sure I wouldn't come back alive. I mean, it didn't matter. She lived with 4 people in one room, very high achieving girl in high school. And she had never met anyone who had been to college. My kids were doing their college apps at the time, didn't want to hear from me. I was like, I can help her anyway. And she ended up getting a full scholarship to college and all of that. I never once wanted to go, or feeding the homeless, no matter what it is for service. I never want to go. 100% of the time, I feel fabulous when I leave.
Isn't that
100% of the
the
time.
truth? And you know what? I love your honesty there, that it's kind of like, oh, I got to go do this. But then you looked at it so
I'm
differently.
busy, the traffic, the this, the that.
Especially in LA. I get it, living there.
I'm always torn between work, kids, my other service commitments, there's always a podcast, there's so much. And yet I'm giving back. There is nothing better. It is what we're here to do. The blue zones where people live the longest, the happiest, and the healthiest. Because why do you want to live a long time if you're not healthy and happy? It's all about community and service. They know each other. They're of service to each other. They're out walking together. I interviewed this one guy, Matt. He put on Meetup. Hey, I'm going running in Santa Monica or wherever it was on Tuesdays at 5:00 or whatever. I just made up the time. But he started a running group just from that. And now he has this whole community. You have a community of people on your retreat once a year. Now you have a whole community. It's just, and you don't.
Let me ask you. Yes. Hold on. Let me ask you, going back to service, because I do know a lot of people, service is key to me. And I told you I was just spending a couple days with my daughter in a hotel room, and we checked in last minute. It wasn't something we planned. They gave us a room that literally overlooked a basketball court. And there was this big sign, Boys and Girls Club. And there was a basketball, little kids doing it. You could tell it was the Boys and Girls Club that were coming together. And I've had the privilege of being a judge for the top kid of the year. It was just like the most impactful thing. And as I sat there, we do get busy. We do forget that you get so much more in return when you go and do that. But when somebody who is listening right now, who is thinking, I've got kids, I've got, ailing parents, I've got work, I've got this. How much time do you believe somebody needs to donate, serve in a week that really would give them this truly feeling
That's such a great question. Guess what? I'm not going to quantify it. Call somebody and say, how are you? That's all you have to do.
Right.
Call someone and say, how are you? Especially if you're feeling kind of blah, you will feel better listening to them. That's it.
You know what's interesting?
All you have to do. You don't have to go feed the homeless or drive far and help mentor something. That was in my path. I said yes, because I say yes to the universe when they send me something. I just figure there's a reason. I'm going to tell you, I never want to do anything. I'd rather read a good novel and be a slug. And if you look at my life, you'll be like, no, you're not. But
you're not.
Inside,
but it is so,
that's what I want to do.
It's so important for people to hear what you just said. We have a tendency to overthink. We have a tendency to try to make it like big. Oh, I got to do this big thing. When just a call, just a dropping off something and just say, not a text. Okay. So now we've got community service. What's number 3?
Okay. So I'm not going to do these in any order because I'm just going to do it off the top of my head. But whatever you feel called to, it all works. And by that, I mean breath work, yoga, EFT tapping. I've gotten such an education on my podcast, but whatever you feel called to, it all works. If you're called to that, you don't have to do it all. The shiny object syndrome, no. Stay focused and do what's in front of you. You do not have to do all of it and be like, well, this feels good, so I'll do that one too, and that one too, and that one too. What take the pause again. I'll do what we're both like.
Yeah.
Close your eyes. What really fills you with joy? Do that. Do that. Life, and which is a good segue to another one. Life's in session. This is it. We don't get a do-over. There's not another. Like, this is your life.
So you said life is in session.
Yes, life's in session.
It's happening. This isn't like you don't get a second time. This isn't like
life's in session. This is it. You're not doing this for some family member or for someone else. If you feel called and there's something you really wish you were doing and you feel like life's passing you by, you're jealous of other people because they're doing what it is that you wish you were doing, and you want to take that leap of faith. This is what I talk about, I think, the most on my podcast. Then you get to do it. there, you can manifest that. You actually can. If you like the word manifest it, you can create the life that you want to do and make that happen. I don't care how high people are lonely, even at the very top. Moms who are CEOs and have that seemingly perfect life, they're not laughing from their gut anymore. Remember when you used to laugh?
Belly laughs. That's my favorite thing. God, I had a few last night that were just so great.
Yes.
Oh, so good. And here's the thing, what I love about that, it's not like, it's a take one, take two, you're in a movie and you get, all these different. No, it's not. I mean, it's a roll. The camera is rolling.
Yes.
There is no going back, reverse this. It is rolling. And when you said that, too many people put it off as, oh, well, someday I really want to do that. I've seen way too many things happen, especially in even the last 2 or 3 days where, and you said it, the CEO that's a mom that's feeling like on the outside, everything is great. On the inside, they're not satisfied. They're lonely. They don't feel complete. Let me tell you, I'm raising my hand. That was me. And now when something comes up for me, great example, I have been thinking about something for a few years, and that is to get Reiki certified. I know everyone, it was something that I'm like, I want to understand it more. I went to Japan recently. I'm like, I need to understand this. So I am taking 2 Saturdays, full Saturdays in August, which, hey, these are busy times for us. These are like, there's lots going on, and I'm doing it. And so what, everybody, could you do? Can you stop saying, I'll get to it, I'll do it later? Do it now. I love this. So right now we've got community, service, called to, life in session. Give me number 5.
Yeah. So that we are a resilient species. I have talked to people, we can get through anything. We absolutely can get through anything. I'm not even going to go through everything. I mean, we all know people that have gotten through, and maybe it's you listening. There's no way if you're listening to this, you've gotten through it. There's no way you haven't got through life. I mean, we all have our stuff. So, and we are resilient. I've talked to Holocaust survivors. I've talked to people who've lost their kids, which is, I think, the worst. So those are the two. So we are resilient, and yet, which is a good segue to another, sense of humor. It's so important to laugh. It's just so important. And here we go.
It's really interesting. I would even ask people, you hear Matthew McConaughey says, you got to exercise every single day. I got to sweat every single day. What if we all said, you got to laugh every day?
Yeah.
Actually laugh. Yeah. What would that mean to us, Lauren?
Hilary. Yeah. Right.
I mean, again,
I can't. That's like that. Okay. So my whole thing right now is the to-do list. If you put type A burnt out mom, Google it, and overachieve and all that, guess what? It gives a whole list of things to do. I'm doing a whole series. How about the to-don't list? Things you can take off the to-don't list. I'm doing a series for these moms. I actually didn't go to I almost didn't go to the hospital when I was raising my kids, because I think, I don't know, should I go to work or to the hospital? My doctor's like, you have to go to the hospital. I wanted my test. And I was like, I actually was like, oh, do I have time? Like when people go, oh, you don't understand. I have a 2 and a 4-year-old. And I'm thinking, no, I do understand. I've been there.
No doubt. And that's something everybody right now. Have you been to your doctors? Have you had your mammogram? Have you had your colonoscopy? Have you had all of these things? Listen to what Lauren is saying. You got to get them done. Done.
Absolutely.
But also sense of humor. This one, wait.
I don't want somebody telling me I have to sweat every day, by the way. You know what? I have to take a walk around the block just to clear your head. Go outside, just take a walk around the block without a device. It will do the most amazing things for you just to clear your head. How about that?
You know what? You've got to come to Boulder. I know you're in LA. Too bad I was just in LA. Otherwise, we would have done this live. But you got to come to Boulder, and we got to go on a hike, because I think
I love hiking. This is
magic
all I'm
would
doing
come with
now,
that.
is hiking. Yeah.
Okay,
all I
but
do
wait.
right now.
Communities.
Yes.
Hold on. I'm going through it. Community, service, called to, life in session, resilience, sense of humor. Number 7.
Okay. So there's 2 more. Authenticity. You've got to be yourself. Being our vulnerable, authentic self. I ended up making a friend. I actually love this episode. I half stalked somebody about friendship. She wrote a book about friendship as adults, and it was so good. But before that, I was talking about how I went to my son's back to school, or what my parents, they don't call it parents weekend, friends and family weekend last year. And he wouldn't let me into his room. Like, I was like, what? I have a really good kid. I'm very lucky. It wasn't like, oh, he's hiding drugs and this and that. And I was like, what do you mean? Why can't we go see your dorm room? I pay your tuition. I didn't do that. I pay your tuition.
But you thought
I'm like, I paid for this. But he wouldn't let me in. And I'm like, I could not enjoy the rest of the day and evening. I was so excited to see him. And I was like, it's weird. He's not my oldest kid. I've gone to these things. Like, what do you mean? I want to meet your roommate. Anyway, he wouldn't let me in. And he just did not want me to go. So we went to dinner, we did all this. And then I went to this thing that was just with some parents and not moms. I don't know why. And I was like, I don't fit in here in my head. I don't fit in. Why am I at this thing? I have nothing in common with these parents. Anyway, for some reason, I said to this mom, I go, my son won't let me in his dorm room. She said, after a while, she goes, my daughter won't let me in hers either. I don't know why I told this woman something I was so ashamed of. I have no idea why. And anyway, I said, would you have told me that if I didn't tell you about my son? She said, no. And she waited a while to tell me too about her daughter. And we bonded so much from that, right? Because I was vulnerable, and I told her, and we ended up spending the whole weekend, and we still are in touch. And I was able to talk to my son because I had talked to somebody else. And it ended up because he's so uncomfortable with this one roommate in particular, and neither of them had any family come. He goes, this isn't even a big deal this weekend. And anyway, and he was telling me about it. He goes, next year, anyway, we had a good conversation because I was authentic and vulnerable. I didn't grow up talking about my feelings. I still have to Google feelings chart sometimes to be like, oh, that's how I feel. And so this is still, all of this is new, and I like play with it sometimes.
Isn't it great that this is new for us? I mean, I feel the same way. I grew up with a dad who was a doctor, grandfather who was a doctor, very much like, hey, don't go there. We don't need to talk about feelings. Just, you work hard, you play harder. Like, just go do it. I'm like, yeah. Okay. No, I'm doing great. My grandparents just got in a car crash and they died, but I'm good. I'm good. So it is interesting.
Fine.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah. I think it's fine. I'm fine.
I was taught if it describes dinner, it's not a feeling. Fine. Good. How's your food? Good. Fine.
I like that. Okay. So now we are on to the eighth one. The eighth one. What would that be?
Yes. Do not listen to that negative self-talk in your head, that inner critic. Do not. It is not real. Those are just thoughts. I am a meditation teacher. I am the first to tell you. And by the way, if you meditate and you're just starting and your thoughts are going, that happens to everyone. That's
sure does.
Meditation.
Everyone.
And they're just thoughts. They aren't real. They are just thoughts, just like clouds, just like anything else. So that is the next part. And I have somebody I interviewed before I even started podcasting. He's a huge MBA. He was inducted to the MBA Hall of Fame, and I actually had, this was a book and everything else, it's on my website at 52weeksofhope.com. If you look at they're short little vignettes. They're not long. This isn't long, but if you look at Rudy Tomjanovich, it's such a good little story about how the story, no matter what pinnacle of success he reached, his head kept saying, Rudy, you're not all that. You're going to get found out. Like the whole thing, it was before people were talking about imposter syndrome or anything else. And it's an amazing little story about that. They just aren't real. None of those thoughts. And
okay, so I gotta summarize it again. You got your community service, call to, life in session, resilience, sense of humor, authenticity, and do not listen to the inner critic.
Yes. And when you say called to, it's whatever you're called to, feel called to do.
I think this, and you know what I love the most about this is that we always talk about identity. We talk about, your subconscious identity, where you are right now, what's being, held back, and then where you're going, the identity of the future you. And what you did by going out there and talking to all these people, and as you said, you're now up to, 170 plus episodes of this. And I was laughing because I think I'm at 175 or a little bit more, right around the same. So we've been doing this as long. And I'll never forget when I was going through a divorce and I thought about, divorce defines us many times. And it's how you want it to define you. Is it in a positive way, a negative way? And I'm like, you know what? People would say, do you want to get married again? And I remember thinking initially, I'm like, I don't know. But then I'm like, yes, I do, because that means I found this incredible person that I'm all in for. And so I went out and I decided to find 3 couples that I truly believed had the greatest marriage. And I wanted
did the same thing. I found 3 couples.
For this.
I found 3 couples.
It took me a while. It took me a while to find those 3.
I didn't. It didn't take me that long.
It took me a while, I have to say.
I knew exactly who I wanted my marriage to look like. I love the way they treated each other and the way they were just so I'll
tell you why I said it took a while, because I did identify a few couples. And when I asked them, when I actually started interviewing them, I'm like all of a sudden some of the things came up. I'm like, yeah, not so much.
Yeah.
But then I kept going.
I found out stuff later and I was like, ooh.
Yeah, exactly. But when I did, then I could sit there and say, you know what? I want that. And I created it. And lo and behold, right now, that's exactly where I am. I am that future identity. I'm now there. I'm like, holy crap, this works. And I love that you have taken the time to see what was similar, what was being consistently said, and put it down. And what a great reminder. What a great reminder every single day to be thinking about this. So as we are, wrapping up, I'd love to hear, what are you working on now? How can people get more access to you, have more hope in their life? What can they do?
You can go to the website, 52weeksofhope.com. Everything is on there. There's a free ebook. There's a quiz. There's also, I've quantified the self-help space, where there's kind of an Excel spreadsheet where you just each day and week, you try to do a little bit better, where if you meditate that day, you give yourself points. If you journal, there's a whole list of things that you can do. And it's a clarity and confidence sheet where it's each thing that you do, you're going to feel better about yourself. And so that's on the website also. It's a way to boost your self-confidence and get some clarity for yourself. So,
Lauren, it's been so much fun. Everyone, we'll have it in the show notes, but 52 Weeks of Hope. Check out the podcast, check out the free things that she's giving you right now. And Lauren, I knew this would be great. It was so fun. I had a couple of the belly laughs. I was like, yes. And it's a great reminder. It really is. Things that we know, but we don't put it all together. And you did for us today. So thank you for being here. It was awesome. I can hardly wait to be on your show. And for everyone out there, you know what? These are relaunches. These are stories. These are, you heard authenticity. Lauren shared, hey, this is stuff that I haven't. I usually breeze over it. And we all have these masks we wear. We all have these hard armors that we have put up, given that we're in the mid zone, as I like to call this middle age as we're in. But guess what? We have the ability. I remember when the Berlin Wall came down and I got a chance to go over there and chip away. And it took a long time to get a little teeny piece. They were selling little hammers, little teeny hammers. And I was like, chip, chip, chip. Eventually it breaks away, but you got to start. And these eight quantifiable meaning of life, the why behind it. Wow, what a gift. So everyone, until next week, live now, love now, relaunch today, relaunch now into that next best version of you. We'll see you next week. If you like this video and want to get more like it, head over here.